Kuzampo, you're watching Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. My name is Bhutan. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King grants royal decrees for reforms in the civil service and education. His Majesty the King confers Lumer's scarf to the Prime Minister. And rising prices of vegetables upset consumers. Addressing the nation on the 113th National Day in Punakha, His Majesty the King grants royal decrees for civil service and education reforms. The custom is to bring in changes to these systems to realize the nation's dream of becoming a developed country.
In his address to the nation on 113th National Day celebration at Punakha, His Majesty the King highlighted on COVID-19 and the country's response to the pandemic.
Ta tuju gyakapnalu nyanka bombe temdalu nyamdelgi taksine bomjiduil. Ta nyanka animchi temdalu donglen beikap nechusu düsekalu titibe bana todibe malu. Jungshabagi kade dütelera karegi genbak tsagendibe chashu dubdetün tamadyu temchin dütelerese sato yubachin dütelere suk gelin bansum laptüp chimchinagi sasazume karegi dingdida sattangtabe chashuil. ता ngara solnang gachi jumme sewajin de gyakhabnalu genji ba rangi la beni tutaje da bajin be masubdi kanemindur.
Concerned with the current system of civil service, His Majesty also informed the gathering that His Majesty would issue a royal custom to civil service to bring in a change in civil servants.
ता gyakab ki tsukdegi dakale 카 치슈데 자 치슈디 시옵기 죽디딜 이루라 도토 반에 시옵날로 딱 마디오 장가 마십지돌 다 시옵기 디지즈 스트럭처 다 마웅바기 주르바 람 겐쿠 네땅 다 미툼벨 시옵수기 튀쇼서바지 깨서 bombe길 시옵기 튀 마쇼바진 gyakablu pentol den jurwagi dungkapabe galen jushegol tangaragi jewdadi da shiop jurwagi dungkapashil de tuju geon tujeka ngawanamgi gi shapsalu tangara hilera melom tabdibe da shiop lekju benigi de kashudi tariti twenil.
Likewise, a custom to improve the quality of education system in the country will also be issued.
Lo lashe asil gyakabna lu jankalu ra zotundi lobdragi janka lubigi janka lobtrugi janka se de banalu pisedi ma nyamdibe asil alusulu khami di chandi labgel ngache kaira tu bombe shosil the tu shosi se jamada ba ta madiusu jogaja bobel the desam ko jagdibe ngara tuju melom tabdi rangi misegi tundele maumbagi tundele misegi bujigi tundele 다 롭드디 가데 다다 딘디존이 삐체 야세니 투 마쇼지베 자니.
Despite dealing well with COVID-19, His Majesty reminded that the country is not yet free from the disease and emphasized on bouncing back strong to recover well from the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo, His Holiness the Khenpo, and member of the royal family also attended the National Day event. The 113th National Day event this time was held in Punakha with minimal visitors considering the COVID-19 situation. This is Pasung Doji for BBS News, Punakha.
His Majesty the King confers the Prime Minister of Bhutan, Dr. Lotus Ring, the Luma scarf during the National Day celebration in Punakha. His Majesty also awarded red scarf and ruk thukse to individuals and organizations.
The Luma scarf was awarded for his dedicated contribution in times of COVID-19 as the Prime Minister. Dr. Lotus Ring was also awarded the Order of Ruk Thukse during the 110th National Day celebration in Har.
China Paji Pujulu, the company Patatami Seminar Uramila, Animita Rengara, the Sunam Tigazuru Piguma Zube, and Omela. The Mionda Machiki 2 Teddy, Tanim China Bodolo, the Simka Kadibome, so watching the Chitangi, Mahashogirata, Hemota Becha Shuni, Sigi Lujure, the Nodo Yogona, the Nagi Tebe, no Musube, Mari Hulin, the Ngare Shishi Tontumchi, Nanile Tebbesugi Sagora Mila, Maragi Shishi Tontumchi, Tuvalumi Hashop chewing a Pishobe Chash Shu Benedigi, the Nilengagi Tip Shuni Seshuan, Manilo, the Ngara Nili Tip Shunigi Churu Mi Seshunivilla, the Humiding Arena La Patsete Chigo, that Serim eating Nituchabura, that the Kadigasu Sama Subigi Kadime, Anibenidigi, Nila Pato, the Sunsu Bemedi, Nilepa Totibenigi, the Kelang Chipuni Motongagi, Tip Punigi, the Yubab Namisibi Majek.
In appreciation for the hard work in combating the disease, His Majesty conferred Dasho Dechin Wangmu, the Health Minister, the red scarf.
I'm really, honestly, very surprised, very honored and a privilege to receive this from His Majesty the King. I think there is no word to describe how I feel. I feel honored, but I also feel that at the same time, this is also an extra responsibility that I express my loyalty and devotion to fulfill this responsibility.
Dasho Pem Thong, who is the Secretary of the National Land Commission and is also a chairperson of Eastern COVID-19 Task Force, was also awarded the red scarf. Dasho has served also as Simpewum in His Majesty's Secretariat.
This is a recognition of the trust and confidence that His Majesty had on me, and this also calls for me to take full responsibility and work harder and to serve the people and in the realization of His Majesty's visions for the long-term geese and nominal virgin.
Dasho Sonam Topke also received a red scarf from His Majesty the King. He is currently serving as the Chief Election Commissioner of Bhutan and also as the Chairperson of Southern COVID-19 Task Force.
I felt a great sense of pride, sense of achievement, being honored in the most historic of zongs in Bhutan. I felt a sense of commitment to the Zawasum. And at that moment, I pledged to myself that I will serve the Zawasum to the best of my abilities with utmost dedication, loyalty, and integrity.
His Majesty the King awarded Health Ministry the Ruk Thukse Medal for their hard work and dedication in fighting the COVID-19 crisis. The Health Ministry was initially started with just 2 doctors, and today there are more than 2,500 health workers, including health professionals in traditional medicine in the country. Desung, Guardians of Peace, also received Ruk Thukse Medal from His Majesty the King. Desups were awarded the medal for their volunteerism in preventing the spread of coronavirus in the country. Desups before 2020 have also helped the people during the time of emergencies such as forest fires, landslides, accidents and floods. Desung program had their first batch of 125 Desups in 2011, and currently there are more than 18,000 Desups in the country. This is Pasung Doji for BBS News, Punakha.
The ceiling for the hospitality and entertainment expenses for ministers or minister equivalent post holders has been set to 1.5 million yutam. Prime Minister Dasho Dr. Lotus Ring informed this during the joint sitting of the Parliament. With no ceiling for hospitality and entertainment expenses, over 5.5 million yutam was spent as hospitality and entertainment expenses last year.
Deliberating on the 4 recommendations put forward by the Public Accounts Committee on the Annual Audit Report 2019, members of the Parliament during the joint sitting today deliberated on the need to develop a guideline on hospitality and entertainment expenses.
디게 해마디 가데베 탱가 로지 주님이 nga 속tin 캐치 집안날에 나 줘봐 또 비김래 디 트위드디 때 다토슨지야 디 쪼거 테베라지 되게 되으시니 인데 거베로 트위드디서 록지 엄달로 디 마차라나 소망기 카틀레 베데베스 주르데 나 생각이 카틀레 베데베스 주르데 딜로 닐렌치 마남바 때 야소숨베 야스누스시니라
땡아라기 차저디 단상아처나 속도나야 슈이 디디다 쪼라테 나저기 징엘디 consolidated fund nale te mangel de zedu tango ba ten chatim da thidra tango se te datogi thega da te lenge shongso khatole te digji zodi beruda te dakil gi tole datin gi tole be de beruda kachigi bele be beruda te khoragi khatole te cheji de anim chele ta mi cho seudalu te rangi te kepen takte yeb sumchibe ji jenime se te ani dokpa dingalu di yu se shunila
ngajara nalu maji tangi selembugi khatule beruda lenge jungsugi khatule beruda te tiji di kagijinna te ti mapa te ginku yebongla yedira bere ngajaragi te twendebdi te matutuk be chasangbe jonigi tenlo ginku de nalu tiji di te tani gi zoni te ani nalu te zo besh nalu nalu te zo sagami sade ngachigi nalu te shulegi te torongi jupyu dalu nalu tebe nalu ngi jupyugo se te sudabachin
The Finance Minister, however, informed the House that in view of the previous recommendations, guidelines on hospitality and entertainment expenses was recently formulated and shared with all relevant agencies.
te dinga che lalen thamne gu chudai se shunela lengge jungsu ge shezom thing tuchuri dumbegi nalu nga che sunri chi shibjibe na nga chi ngechil henga khathule pha zinde phimegi te lamlu digulu te ro nga chi lengge jungsu ge khathule kai na wa na shimda te di gudadi te karalu phu dewe begi te ledi chukde karalu phibebe te lalen thamne gu chudai se shugela di dinalu cheji yu ta to chubdi gachina ma chub gachina dina khasebe te nga che se chepti bi.
Further, the Prime Minister shared that the hospitality and entertainment expenses has now been brought down to 1.5 million yutam.
Nyama bewachi lochinalu tipche halam booms to shipchu shenga ngapchu nga juju se shunibila daregi dijina bodalu the boom changarai se shunibi ani kepin tatik tansu mitsula anchi nga chira kengobdu se shunibi ni basodalu 마지 뉴볼 현속이 조금이 마치 뉴볼 현속 텐 지범디 초치 있어 주니베라 뉴볼 현속 텐 지범기 인준알로 디 마츠베 있어 주니베 다니 마츠브다 다레 차치 자병아처럼 뉴볼 현속날로 구주다 바친 도레록디나 순데 lokchi 태용라.
The Public Accounts Committee also recommended to review the practice of granting advance to contractors, rectification of differences in accounts of budgetary agencies, and to enforce contractual provision of insurance for medium and large-scale works. This is Pasang Doji for BBS News.
Sentences of the first degree and above will henceforth be non-bailable. The Parliament endorsed the change recommended by the Joint Committee's decision. Section 199.8A of the Civil and Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Act of Bhutan 2011 states that a person is ineligible for bail if he or she is accused of an offence against the security and sovereignty of the country and an offence of or above felony of the second degree. However, the Upper House and some members of the Parliament recommended removing the non-bailable clause of second-degree offence, stating that it is depriving individuals of basic human rights and fundamental rights.
The Joint Committee of the two Houses recommended easing the non-bailable extent to first degree and above. The original clause B in the section of the bill states that an offence of or above second-degree felony is ineligible for bail. During the amendment of the Civil and Criminal Procedure Code Bill of Bhutan 2019 yesterday, the National Council and some members of the lower house recommended the clause to be removed, reasoning it to be unconstitutional.
first degree semidila felony of first degree semidi te dinalo yuba minusation ila iba te khal hibdalu te ta dinalu above se chudanula ta erim thambagi talu di te chentri makolera misation ila erim thambagi talu chentri ongob drochi bewachin te dinalo soktogi chentri ongob sesioni te ani bewale tende give ani dinalo yuba minusation ila
미드스기 팀기 캐쇼드스기 가데비 슈무세와친 아니 된센디아 튀는 제디기비기 된센디아 짜짐 쳇노레 겨와 인세 아니비 슈미디아 테 뎀바치 두세 슈닐라 리틀 룽다 미룽기 된센 케디기비 마치 디 짜짐 쳇노레 겨와 인세 디미 지텐기 토방레 겨와 인세 테디 데베랄랍 임베스 슈닐라 녜죽젠델로 팀기 림기바다 테디기베 찌지 마치디기베 팀체 마줍센 디 최최 닐레 탐노 데베 임베 세위기 팀기 된살레 춘체 만남 첸세 디 아피미디 녜바미 메비기 장수 innocent until proven guilty
미디 독바이 테 콜루 테 로델디 미지 베다루 테 디아 미토베 지텐 케왕레 게웨지 이메세 테 할람 테 네길디 텐텐 이메 밍옴치기 네길 아니 네길디 니즈 포미디 테 텐텐 임바친 테 토방 미누세지니 데달로 파 팀기요나라 베와친디 프리마 페시 셀라메 아니 맵 첸첸디 테 벨 로델 테 톱급지 두 세주니라.
However, with 65 yes votes and 6 abstaining, the Joint Committee decided to endorse the recommendations and lift the non-bailable extent to first degree and above.
Tengachari thadi teta kabadi ranjabe tele khabade teta erim nibanale erim damba sensen zoni be hema phudo zumbara shecham juing se shunila.
Offences such as rape of a child above 12 years and voluntary manslaughter are graded as second-degree felony, while murder, statutory rape, treason, terrorism, and offences against Kusung Thukten are some of the crimes graded as first-degree felony. This is Sringdantuk, BBS News.
The Parliament tightens the noose on fronting. Fronting is defined as leasing of the license to another party to run the business. It now becomes a criminal offence. New subsections on fronting is now in the Penal Code Amendment Bill of Bhutan 2019. A defendant shall be guilty of an offence of fronting if the defendant leases or subleases, hire or otherwise permits another person to use or operate one's license unless otherwise permitted by laws or policies.
The new subsections come under the section Grading of Tax Evasion. Now, if the fronting takes place between Bhutanese nationals, it will be a violation for the first conviction, and it will be a petty misdemeanor and cancellations of license for the second conviction. And it will be a fourth-degree felony or a value-based sentencing, whichever is higher if the fronting takes place between a Bhutanese and a person other than Bhutanese national. It carries a prison term from 3 to 5 years.
Ngachigi dubi misergi nadunaradi te di laklen thapchup zonigi te yebapchi nisha junila tele nipanaludi da mapa ngachigi dubi misergi te lakherdi te dubi chi gekhabi mida chi kha dewa bebe khundi suda chi kha dewa bebe te higher lease bebe te be macho be dubala ani di debera ja debeuda ngachigi dubi misergi nangkhonaludi te di bechobera te jurchechi beni dubi migi nanderu choktamdi larche be beogi jesu beogi galu timgi erimdi gadebe du sewaji nepa yantha be du se shuni te di nepa yantha di debera sha be jina timdi te ju second time lu beudalu dambam nipam ki thekha abdulu daru ani mi dira zungjim gademji be dakjonggi honle zungjin di be bewajindi choktamdi chame tani se imbe di chame matamba be besna 데베라 녀파 양타베라샤 속탐기 참에담이 이 덴센디 치룽베루 마둡스 민두 셰쇼니라.
According to the Ministry of Economic Affairs, there were some 200 fronting cases until April last year in 4 major towns of Phintsoling, Gelifu, Samrup Jongkhar and Mongar. Phintsoling alone had 161. Today, trade rules and regulations do not allow fronting. Violations of this rule shall result in cancellations of the license and immediate closure of the business. The bill will now be submitted to His Majesty the King for royal assent. Kelsung Chodin for BBS News.
The State of the Nation report states that the country's gross domestic product or GDP is likely to drop further to negative 6.1%. In the previous estimate in June, the economic growth was projected at negative 2.1% amid the blow from the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Prime Minister said the economy will be revived as soon as the pandemic ends. The report shows a strong rebound of 4.2% in economic growth next year.
The taregi the quarter gi yupi duntachi gi hematome gi nesuna bewachin the minus 2 that sa ngadi chigu pinime segi paksakeda isishuni bela. Da digibe tu sage nami semi jego sishuni be tu sage jebdalu chathamigo sishuni bela. Ngachirigi zamling na iroe dai ngachirigi luncho na iroe dai Saki lunchona iroe dai. Ani chultun be zida bachin. Mitu e ngipshara jani ki be zida bachin. Jacha minus 2 DHD. Gyakab jankha zumchira ime se shunibi. Laluchi minus 2 chopgela phaya hisonula.
As per the National Budget Report 2020-2021, the country's economic growth projection before the pandemic was 6.9%. Moreover, the State of the Nation report also shows the estimated fiscal deficit of more than 15 billion newton against the revised GDP of 184 billion newton. The fiscal deficit is the gap between the total resources available and the total expenditure of the government.
Terbum chenga deji chedi yula. Toto ngachi laba mi tango mi gi ne ni ngachiragi de nyulendi yu se shunibi. 다니 테르붐 쟁아 되지 챵달로 테르붐 주수 되지 낭쾌레끼니라 아니 지투가 남셔와진 데켄 세슈니비 다 같이르기 낭쾌레끼디기베 같이 사룹기나 땀달로 게캅루 가데베 페미나 빼주기 내땅루 가데베 페미나 같이라 가라기 레짐베 시라 같이르기 뉴캉 디수날레 중기 균딜 렌디기베 미데나타 같이기 조틴나타 게르기나 타나바친 도르아니 띠루디
The fiscal deficit is projected to remain elevated as government's spending continues to rise due to the implementation of COVID-19 relief and recovery measures. Moreover, non-hydro revenue has not picked up. Sunampem for BBS News.
Information and communications technology will become the third language for all classes in the country starting 2021 academic year. Prime Minister Tasho Dr. Lotus Singh informed this while presenting the State of the Nation report in the Parliament.
The Prime Minister said works are underway to introduce coding as a compulsory subject from PP to class 12. Towards this, a new ICT curriculum framework has also been developed.
도토비와 진등하자라 데 인케다 마치리기 중게 종카디수 타르마큐바진 알루수 추센 타마큐베 장수 이메 땡아라다 림부라이 칼랍 시리기 둥체다 케쇼디스 가라 칼랍베 다니 ICT 데 third language 베 이룸 메루 타 큐고베 타 마큐바진 데 코에 추센 lok가 곰바딘도 포니미베 장수 주다바진 콩 연두치 탭 톱세 벼와진 아니베 주게세
All schools will be equipped with at least one computer lab each by March 2021. More than 400 additional teachers will be trained. Further, the Prime Minister also announced that the technical and vocational education and training will be formalized in mainstream education.
락제다 조튼기 추센디수 디베츠 가라이 딜랍메 아니디 메인스트림 에듀케이션나 맵좀베 추수노 세슈니베 다니가 지금 홀레 데텐나로 레귤지라 삽 쭉디기베 데데 조튼다 락제기 연도디스에 메인스트림 에듀케이션 벽업에세 공차섭의 추센디 아치라 디플로마 고사 디플로마 bachelor's degree gosa bachelor's degree master's gosa master's di gara 추센 추다 팀베 톱베 조고베에세 달라린치 데베 탑도 세슈니베나
The TVET was introduced as an optional subject in class 9 in 7 schools this year. But there are plans to roll out the program in classes 10 and 12 from next year. This is Pasung Doji for BBS News.
Residents in Thimphu are expressing concerns over the rising vegetable prices. Many say the surge in prices caused by the ongoing pandemic needs intervention and regulation. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Ministry says there are plans to increase the quantity of imported vegetables as well as the local winter vegetables, which will hit the market soon, is expected to curb the price hike.
This year, apart from global coronavirus pandemic, residents in the capital have been fretting over the soaring vegetable prices. They said the prices started to rise after the closure of border gates earlier this year. Although prices normalized during the summer when local production of vegetables was at its peak, it however started to increase again. And residents say the pinch from the price rise is becoming too painful to bear.
Most vegetables now cost double the normal price. A kilogram of potato costs 100 ngultram. A kilogram of cabbage costs 100 ngultram. Green chilies cost 250 ngultram. But we have no choice but to bear the brunt. Vegetables are too expensive to buy.
But the vendor's stance is that local vegetables come in limited stock at increased prices from the source and they are left with no choice.
The price has increased drastically for both local and imported vegetables this time. Due to limited stock from the source, the price for vegetables has increased. The price of small spicy green chilies is 600 ngultram now.
We are helpless too. We receive limited stock of vegetables from the farmers and also limited quantities of imported vegetables, which have led to the price hike.
Agriculture Minister Yishipenjo said it is obvious for the prices to increase around this time of the year when the vegetable production is low. But the minister added prices are expected to normalize in coming weeks when winter vegetable hit the market.
Over the weeks, the production across the border will also increase, which means our import quantities can increase, and then with the increase of the resources quantity in the market, the price obviously will reduce.
The minister said BAFRA, along with the Office of Consumer Protection, is monitoring the prices of vegetables. He also urged residents owning personal lands to grow vegetables for self-consumption. Shoni Dama for BBS News.
That's all we have for you for this week. Thank you for watching.